It's funny how life can change in an instant. One moment, you're walking through your everyday routine, thinking everything is fine. Then, the next, everything shatters. And you're left trying to put the pieces back together, never quite sure what happened or why you didn't see it coming. It all started with a text. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. That one message flipped my whole world upside down. It was nothing special, not even a long, dramatic paragraph. Just a single word. But it was the word that broke something inside of me. Come, I'll explain. But first, let me set the scene for you. My name is Ethan, and I thought I had a normal life. Not perfect, but normal. I didn't have any reason to doubt anything. My wife, Lena, and I had been together for almost 4 years. And even though things hadn't been exactly thrilling in a while, I thought we were okay. The kind of okay where you don't have to question each other's loyalty or intentions. We were busy with life. Work, the house, friends, nothing special. But that night was different. It wasn't anything extraordinary at first. Lena invited me to a party. I didn't want to go. Parties weren't really my thing. But she was persistent. It'll be fun. You need to loosen up, she said. She never really forced me to do things, so I agreed. A part of me thought maybe it would be a good chance to reconnect, to enjoy a night outside of our routine. We arrived at the party. It was one of those upscale, too chic for its own good places with dim lights, too many people trying to look important, and music that's too loud to talk over. Lena immediately blended in like she was born for these kinds of environments, her laugh bright and her voice carrying across the room as she greeted people I didn't know. Me? I stood there feeling out of place, trying not to look like the awkward guy who didn't belong. Lena quickly disappeared into the crowd. And I was left standing by myself, my drink growing warm in my hand as I watched her move effortlessly through the crowd. It didn't help that she barely looked back at me. At first, I told myself I was overthinking it. She was just having fun, right? But then I noticed it. Every time I tried to approach her, she would subtly slip away, like she didn't want to be near me. Every conversation I tried to start was met with polite, distracted responses. She wasn't rude, but it was clear I wasn't her priority. And that's when it hit me. Something had changed. She wasn't the same person I knew anymore. There was a distance, emotional, physical, something, growing between us, and I didn't know why. The night went on, and I grew more and more uncomfortable. The people around me were having a blast, but I felt like I was suffocating in the noise and the forced small talk. I couldn't shake the feeling that I was invisible to my own wife. So, I did what any normal person would do. I left. I didn't make a scene. I didn't say goodbye. I just slipped out of the party and into the cool night air. I figured she wouldn't care. She was too busy, too lost in her own world. But when I was halfway to my car, my phone buzzed. It was a message from Lena. "Where are you?" I was shocked. She noticed I was gone. I was about to type out a response when my phone buzzed again. This time, just one word. Come. My heart stopped. What did she mean? Why was she asking me to come back? After ignoring me all night, why would she suddenly want me back? Was she serious? Or was it some kind of joke? I stared at the screen, my mind racing. I shouldn't have gone back. I shouldn't have been curious, not after the way she treated me all evening. But something told me I had to know. So I did it. I turned around and walked back toward the party. And as I approached, I felt this strange sense of anticipation. What was waiting for me inside? What was Lena really up to? As I entered the building again, I couldn't shake the feeling that things were about to spiral completely out of control. I couldn't shake the thought of the text she sent. Come. One word, and it was all I could think about. My mind raced with possibilities. Was she playing a game? Or was she genuinely asking for me? After the way she'd been acting all night, I couldn't help but feel like there was something more to this. It wasn't like Lena to be this cryptic. I turned around, my steps uncertain but heavy. I knew I shouldn't go back. I'd already been ignored, brushed off, and left to fend for myself at a party full of strangers. But something about that one word. I couldn't just walk away from it. I was too curious, too desperate to understand why things had shifted so dramatically between us. The building loomed ahead, the flashing lights still visible through the windows, the pounding bass of the music still vibrating in my chest. I hesitated for a moment outside the door, taking a deep breath, trying to calm the nervous energy swirling in my gut. As I stepped back inside, the atmosphere hit me again, too loud, too bright. But this time, it felt different. Like I was walking into a different reality. It wasn't the same party I had left just moments before. The crowd seemed to part for me as I walked through, but no one acknowledged me. No one noticed. My eyes scanned the room, looking for Lena. And there she was. She was standing in the corner of the room, talking to someone. I couldn't tell who. It didn't matter. She was laughing, her head tilted back, eyes sparkling, her hand resting casually on the shoulder of a man I didn't recognize. He was leaning in a little too close, and the way they were talking, it wasn't normal. Not the kind of conversation you have with someone you're just friends with. There was an intimacy there that I couldn't ignore. My stomach twisted. I tried to shake it off, tried to tell myself I was being paranoid. I told myself I shouldn't be jumping to conclusions. But the doubt lingered, gnawing at me. What was going on between them? I stood there, frozen for what felt like an eternity, watching them. And then, just as I started to walk toward them, Lena caught my eye. For the first time all night, she looked at me, not with indifference, but with a spark. She smiled. And that smile, it was different from the one she used to give me. It wasn't warm. It wasn't loving. It was almost secretive, like she knew something I didn't, like she was enjoying some private joke I wasn't in on. I could feel my heartbeat speeding up. What was happening to her? What was happening to us? Before I could move, Lena waved goodbye to the guy she was talking to and made her way over to me. She didn't say anything right away. She just looked at me, studying me with a strange, unreadable expression on her face. It was as though she was waiting for me to say something. "Well," she said finally, her voice low, almost flirtatious. "You came back." "Yeah," I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. "I got your text." She nodded. "I wasn't sure you would." I didn't know how to respond to that. Was she testing me? Was she trying to see how far she could push me before I snapped? Or was this something else entirely? I tried to keep calm. "What's going on, Lena?" I asked, my voice coming out sharper than I intended. "Why did you send me that message? Why are you acting like this?" She tilted her head, her eyes narrowing slightly. "What do you mean, acting like this?" It was the tone in her voice that unsettled me. It wasn't defensive, but it wasn't understanding either. It was distant, like she wasn't even sure what I was talking about. I swallowed hard, trying to steady myself. "I don't know. You've been different all night. I don't even know why I'm here right now." She stepped closer, her lips curling into a small, almost secretive smile. "Maybe that's the point," she said softly. "Maybe you're here because you should be." I didn't know what to make of it. What did she mean by that? What was she trying to say? Before I could ask any more questions, Lena reached out, touching my arm lightly. "Come with me," she said, her voice barely a whisper. I didn't even think about it. I just followed her as she led me through the crowded room, past people who seemed to ignore us completely. My heart was racing, every step feeling like it was leading me deeper into something I didn't understand. We reached a quieter area at the back of the loft, a small balcony overlooking the city. The noise from the party below was muffled here, and the cool air hit my face. Lena leaned against the railing, her eyes fixed on the skyline. I stood next to her, unsure of what to say. There was an uncomfortable tension in the air, like something was about to be revealed. But I couldn't bring myself to ask what was really going on. I didn't know if I wanted to know the answer. Finally, she spoke. "Do you ever wonder, Ethan, why we do the things we do?" The question threw me off guard. I wasn't expecting this. "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. She looked at me, a strange glimmer in her eyes. "I mean, why we stay in situations that don't make us happy. Why we ignore the signs. Why we pretend things are fine when they're falling apart." I felt like the ground had just shifted beneath me. What was she talking about? Was this some sort of confession? Before I could respond, she turned away from the railing and looked me directly in the eyes. Maybe we're both just too scared to admit the truth. The truth? I didn't know what she meant, but for some reason, everything in me was screaming that I wasn't ready for whatever was coming next. The words hung in the air like a weight I couldn't shake off. Maybe we're both just too scared to admit the truth. Lena's voice was calm, almost too calm, as she turned to face me, her eyes unwavering. I could feel the tension crackling between us, thick and suffocating. What was she talking about? What truth was she referring to? I tried to steady myself. What truth? My voice was barely a whisper, like I was afraid that saying the wrong thing might shatter something I didn't understand yet. She tilted her head slightly, as if studying me. "The truth about us, Ethan. About what's really going on here." Her words hit me like a punch to the gut. It was like she was peeling back layers of something I wasn't ready to face, something I had been avoiding. But the fear, the confusion, was building inside me, pushing me to find out what she meant. Lena, I don't. I started, but she cut me off, her gaze intense. You know exactly what I mean, she said quietly, her lips curling into a faint, knowing smile. We've both been pretending for too long. Pretending everything's fine when it's not. Pretending we're still the same people we were when we first met. I felt my stomach tighten. What was she saying? What was she trying to tell me? The words seemed to blur together as my mind raced, trying to process everything. We've grown apart, Ethan. And it's not just because of the distance. She paused, looking down at the ground. It's because we've stopped trying. We've stopped caring. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Lena and I, we were fine, weren't we? Sure, things had been a little off lately, but this was a bombshell. I don't know what to say. I stammered, my heart pounding in my chest. I don't think it's that bad. No, Ethan, she interrupted, her voice sharp. It is that bad. You don't see it because you don't want to. But I can't keep pretending anymore. Not for you, not for me. I took a step back, my mind spinning. Was she saying that everything we had, everything I thought we had, was a lie? Had she been planning this all along? Lena's eyes softened for a brief moment. I'm sorry, she whispered, almost like she was apologizing for something bigger than just the words she had said. I felt numb. Sorry? For what? She didn't answer immediately, just stood there, looking out at the city below. Then, after a long pause, she finally spoke again. For not telling you sooner. For letting it get this far. Her words hit me like a wave. I wanted to shout at her, to demand answers, to make sense of everything, but I was paralyzed. The truth was too overwhelming. What was happening to my life? To my marriage? I opened my mouth to speak, but before I could get a word out, she stepped closer, her face inches from mine. Her hand gently cupped my cheek, and for a split second, I felt the old connection we used to share. The warmth, the comfort, the love. But then she pulled away, her eyes filled with something I couldn't read. I didn't want to hurt you, Ethan. But we can't keep living like this. It's over. I didn't know how to respond. It's over? Had she really just said that? Before I could gather my thoughts, Lena turned and walked back toward the party, leaving me standing there, frozen, feeling like the floor had been ripped out from under me. I stood there, my feet glued to the ground, unable to move, as Lena walked back toward the party. The sound of the music, the laughter of strangers, and the distant hum of the city all felt muted. The air around me was thick, heavy with the weight of her words. It's over. I should have followed her. I should have said something, anything to stop her from leaving. But my body wouldn't respond. It was like I was caught in a nightmare, unable to wake up. The words she had just said replayed in my mind, each repetition more suffocating than the last. It's over. I wanted to scream. I wanted to ask her why now? Why couldn't we fix things? But everything felt so pointless in that moment. The anger, the confusion, the betrayal, it all tangled together, leaving me with nothing but emptiness. Lena's words echoed in my mind as I watched her disappear back into the crowd. I stood motionless, my mind racing. What had I missed? Where had things gone wrong? We'd had problems, sure, but I never thought it would come to this. I never imagined that the woman I married would be standing here, telling me it was over, without so much as a second glance. I was snapped out of my thoughts when I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned around quickly, almost expecting to see Lena, but it was someone else. A man I didn't recognize, wearing a sharp suit and a knowing smile. Hey, man, you good? He asked, his voice too casual for the situation. I wasn't sure how to respond. I didn't feel good. I felt like my world had just collapsed, but somehow, this stranger didn't seem to notice. Or maybe he didn't care. I'm fine, I said, though the words felt hollow. The man raised an eyebrow. I've been watching you. You look like you just got hit with something heavy. Are you sure you're okay? I didn't want to talk to him. I didn't want to talk to anyone. But something about his presence kept me rooted in place. Maybe I was just too numb to move. Maybe I wanted to find a way to make sense of everything that had just happened. What do you mean? I asked, my voice sounding more tired than I intended. The man leaned in, glancing around as if making sure no one else was listening. Look, I don't know you, and you don't know me. But I can tell when something's off. And trust me, you're not the only one who's been left in the dark tonight. His words hung in the air, and I felt a chill run down my spine. What are you talking about? He smirked, his gaze lingering on the crowd. Your wife, man. She's not the person you think she is. A knot tightened in my stomach. What did he know? How did he know anything about Lena? I'm just saying, the man continued, his voice dropping lower. There's more going on here than you realize. It's not just you. She's got her own secrets. I took a step back, my heart racing. What the hell are you talking about? My voice was shaky now, the anger starting to rise. The man shrugged, like it didn't matter to him either way. I'm not here to cause trouble. Just remember, not everything is as it seems. Before I could respond, he walked away, disappearing into the crowd like he had never been there. I stood there, trying to process what had just happened. His words lingered in my mind, spinning around like a whirlwind. What secrets? What was Lena hiding? I didn't have time to think it through. I couldn't just stand there anymore, frozen in uncertainty. I had to confront Lena. I had to know the truth. I made my way back into the party, my heart pounding in my chest. The noise, the laughter, it all felt so distant now, like I was living in a completely different reality. I scanned the room, searching for Lena, but she was nowhere to be found. I walked through the crowd, trying to keep my cool, but the unease was creeping up on me. Then I saw her. She was standing in the corner, talking to a few people, but something about the way she held herself made my skin crawl. There was a coldness in her eyes, a distance that I hadn't noticed before. She wasn't just avoiding me now, she was avoiding everyone. I took a deep breath and walked toward her, my feet feeling heavier with every step. She saw me approaching but didn't move, didn't acknowledge me right away. When I reached her, I finally spoke, my voice steadier than I felt. Lena, we need to talk. Now. She looked at me, her expression unreadable, but I saw the flicker of something in her eyes. Fear? Guilt? I couldn't tell. Ethan, not now, she said, her voice low, almost pleading. No, I said, my frustration building. Now? You owe me an explanation. For a moment, she didn't say anything, just stared at me as if weighing her options. Then, finally, she nodded. Fine, come with me. She led me through the back door of the loft, into a small alley behind the building. The noise from the party was barely audible here, and the cold air cut through the tension between us. I stood there, waiting for her to speak. But she remained silent, her back to me, staring at the darkened street ahead. Lena, I started, my voice trembling. What's going on? What aren't you telling me? She turned slowly, her face pale in the dim light. There's something I didn't want to say, Ethan, but I can't keep it from you anymore. The silence between us was suffocating. What was she going to say? I've been seeing someone else, she finally whispered. I felt like the ground had just vanished beneath me. The words hit me like a ton of bricks. I've been seeing someone else. For a moment, I couldn't breathe. My mind raced, spinning out of control. I could hear the faint hum of the party in the background, but it felt so far away. Everything around me seemed to blur as the weight of her confession sank in. I stared at Lena, her face pale and almost unreadable in the dim alley light. I wanted to scream. I wanted to demand more details, to understand why this was happening, but I couldn't form the words. My thoughts were a tangled mess. She continued, her voice barely a whisper. I never meant for it to happen this way. It just did. I took a shaky step back, my heart pounding in my chest. How long? I managed to ask, though it felt like I had to force the words out of my mouth. Lena looked down, avoiding my gaze. A few months. The time that had passed, the moments I'd spent thinking everything was fine, and now it felt like a lie. I could feel my chest tightening as anger and betrayal bubbled to the surface. Why? I asked, my voice cracking. Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you even try to fix it? She shook her head slowly, tears welling up in her eyes. I didn't know how. I didn't want to hurt you. And at first, I thought it was just a phase, but it wasn't. I didn't know what to do. The vulnerability in her voice made the situation even worse. It wasn't just a cold confession. It was someone who had been living in their own secret world while I was kept in the dark. I had no idea how to respond. Part of me wanted to walk away. Another part wanted to shake her and demand to know everything. Who he was, how it started, why it had to happen this way. But all I could do was stare at her, trying to wrap my mind around the truth. Who is he? The words came out almost automatically, my mind reeling as I tried to make sense of it all. Lena hesitated before answering. His name is Ben. We met through work. It was never supposed to be like this, Ethan. I didn't plan for it. Ben. My mind latched onto the name like it was a lifeline, trying to find some clue, some thread to pull on that might make everything clearer. But the truth was, I didn't want to know any more details. I didn't want to hear about Ben or what had happened between them. The betrayal was too raw, too fresh. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I stood there, numb, trying to hold on to the pieces of myself that felt like they were slipping away. Finally, I found my voice. How long has it been going on? I asked, my throat tight. Since the beginning of the year, she said quietly. I never meant to fall for him, but I did. The words hung in the air like a weight I couldn't lift. She never meant to fall for him. That was supposed to make it better, wasn't it? But it didn't. It only made it worse. I turned away, walking a few steps down the alley to collect myself. The cool air stung against my skin, but it did nothing to clear my head. I didn't know what to do next. I didn't know what I was supposed to feel. Anger, sadness, relief, betrayal. All of it swirled together, making it impossible to think straight. When I turned back to face her, I saw that Lena was still standing in the same spot, her eyes downcast, her body tense. She was waiting for me to say something. But what was I supposed to say? You've been lying to me this whole time, I said, my voice barely above a whisper, but the words were sharper than I expected. You've been living a double life while I trusted you. Lena flinched, her hand reaching out as if to stop me. Ethan, please. I never meant to hurt you. But I didn't want to hear it. I couldn't hear it anymore. Then why did you stay? I interrupted, my voice breaking. Why did you keep pretending everything was okay? Why didn't you just tell me? If you were already with him, why did I have to be the last to know? She closed her eyes, taking a deep breath. I couldn't. I didn't know how. I thought I could fix things. But I couldn't. I looked at her, really looked at her, and I felt nothing but emptiness. There was no love left, no anger even. Just a cold, hollow feeling. I don't think I can do this anymore, Lena, I said softly, the words feeling like a finality that I hadn't expected to say, but now couldn't take back. I turned and started walking away, each step feeling heavier than the last. Behind me, I could hear her calling my name, but I didn't stop. Not this time. I didn't stop walking. My heart was pounding, but my mind was strangely quiet. It was as if the world had shifted, and I couldn't find my place in it anymore. I was no longer sure of what I had, who I was, or what I even wanted. Behind me, I could hear Lena's voice calling my name, soft but desperate. But I didn't look back. If I did, I was afraid I would fall apart. I had to get away. I had to clear my head. I stepped into the cold night, the chill of the air hitting me like a slap to the face. It felt real. Real in a way the party, the lies, and everything else had stopped being. I kept walking, not really sure where I was going. My mind kept replaying everything Lena had said. I've been seeing someone else. I never meant for it to happen this way. It's over. The finality of it all settled deep in my chest. I didn't know how to process it. It felt like I was suffocating, like the air around me had thickened. I couldn't breathe. I made my way to the parking lot, eyes unfocused, my feet moving on their own. I didn't know what I wanted. Maybe just some distance. Some time to figure out what the hell was going on. I reached my car, but before I could open the door, I heard footsteps behind me. I turned around slowly, dreading what I might see. It was Lena. She was standing a few feet away, her eyes red from crying. She looked small, fragile, in that moment. But it didn't change what had just happened. Ethan, please, she said, her voice breaking. I know I've hurt you. I know you're angry. But I don't want to lose you. Not like this. I could barely look at her. You've already lost me, I said quietly, my voice full of a pain I didn't know how to express. Her face crumpled, and she took a step toward me, but I stepped back. I don't want to hear it anymore, Lena, I said, shaking my head. You should have told me the truth. From the start. You should have been honest with me. Instead, you lied. And now it's too late. The silence between us stretched out, thick and heavy. I could feel my hands shaking, my mind racing. I wanted to scream. I wanted to do something. Anything. But I just stood there, frozen. She looked at me one last time, the sadness in her eyes so raw, so real. Then she turned and walked away. I watched her disappear into the night, her figure slowly fading from view. And in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't just losing Lena. I was losing myself. I stood there for a long time, not moving, my hand still resting on the door of my car. The night felt heavier now, like the weight of everything I'd just heard was pressing down on me. The words Lena had said, "It's over." They kept echoing in my mind, louder with each passing second. The world felt like it was spinning in slow motion. My hands were shaking, my chest tight with a pressure I couldn't escape. I wanted to feel something, anger, relief, confusion, but all I could feel was this hollow emptiness. The kind of emptiness that only comes when the person you trusted most in the world shatters your reality. I tried to process what had happened, but nothing made sense. The woman I loved, the woman I thought I knew, had been living a lie. She'd been seeing someone else for months. And I had no idea. I didn't even see it coming. As I sat in my car, staring blankly at the steering wheel, my mind kept wandering back to the moment she told me. "I've been seeing someone else." Ben. The name kept repeating in my head. Who was he? How could she do this? But the more I thought about it, the more I realized none of it mattered anymore. She had made her choice. She'd already made it clear. I slammed my fist against the wheel, the sound echoing in the car. The anger finally hit me, coursing through my veins like fire. I wasn't angry just at Lena. I was angry at myself. How had I not seen it? How had I been so blind? I wanted to call her, to demand answers, to scream at her, but I knew deep down it wouldn't change anything. I had already lost her. The thought was like a punch to the gut, and I couldn't shake it. I looked around, trying to ground myself, but everything felt foreign. The world outside the car was the same, but I wasn't. I didn't know how long I sat there before I finally turned the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life, breaking the silence. I didn't have a plan. I didn't know where I was going. But I couldn't stay here. Not in this place. Not with all the memories that would never feel the same again. As I drove, the night stretched out in front of me like an endless road, and I couldn't help but think about everything that had led to this point. How had things gone so wrong? We had good times. There were moments when I thought we were truly happy. But those moments now felt distant, like a dream I couldn't quite recall. When I finally stopped the car, I found myself in a part of town I didn't recognize. The streetlights flickered overhead, casting long shadows across the empty road. I had no idea why I had come here, but I needed to be alone. I got out of the car, walking aimlessly through the quiet streets, my thoughts spiraling. How could she do this? The question kept repeating, each time with more venom. But there was something else, too. A growing feeling that maybe this wasn't just about Lena anymore. Maybe it was about me. I had let this happen. I had ignored the signs, pushed away the doubts. I had put all my trust in someone who was already slipping away. The anger boiled up again, stronger this time. But this time, it wasn't directed at Lena. It was directed at myself. At my own inability to see the truth. To see the cracks forming in the relationship I thought was solid. As I walked, I realized something else. I wasn't just hurt. I wasn't just angry. I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of facing the truth. Because the truth was that everything I thought I knew was a lie. And I didn't know how to move forward from that. The weight of the realization hit me hard. I wasn't just losing Lena. I was losing the life I thought I had. I kept walking, not sure where I was going. I didn't care. All I wanted was to escape from the nightmare that had become my reality. But the longer I walked, the more I realized that I couldn't escape it. The world felt like it had crumbled beneath my feet. The night stretched on, heavy with silence, the city lights flickering around me. I had no idea how long I had been walking or where my feet were taking me, but I knew I couldn't keep running from what had happened. I couldn't keep running from myself. As the hours passed, the storm of emotions inside me began to settle, the sharp edges of anger and betrayal softening into something else. Something unexpected. A quiet sense of clarity. I stopped at a small park, the kind of place that felt familiar even in the darkness. The park bench was empty, and the soft rustling of the leaves in the trees felt oddly comforting. I sat down, taking a deep breath, letting the cold air fill my lungs. I had always thought that life was something that just happened to you, that you had little control over the ups and downs. But tonight, something shifted. I realized I had more control than I thought. Not over the people around me, not over Lena, but over how I chose to move forward. I pulled my phone from my pocket, almost hesitating as I unlocked it. I thought about Lena, about everything she had said, everything that had happened. Part of me wanted to erase it all, to forget her and the pain she'd caused. But I knew that wasn't the answer. I couldn't erase the past. It had shaped me in ways I hadn't fully understood until now. Instead of searching for Lena's number, I did something I hadn't done in a long time. I called my brother, Matt. He answered on the second ring. "Ethan, you okay?" His voice was steady, knowing without asking that something was wrong. "No," I said, the words coming out a little weaker than I expected. "But I'm getting there." He was quiet for a moment, letting me process. Then he said, "I'm here, man. You know that, right? If you need to talk, or if you just need to sit in silence, I got you." I felt a lump in my throat. It wasn't much, but it was exactly what I needed. Someone who knew me, who wasn't asking for answers, just offering support. We talked for a while, but the conversation wasn't about Lena. It was about me, about where I was headed. We laughed a little, and for the first time that night, I felt a flicker of hope. The kind of hope that doesn't come from fixing everything, but from knowing that the broken pieces can still fit together somehow, in a way you never expected. As I hung up the phone, the world felt a little less heavy. I had a long road ahead, but I knew I wasn't alone. I wasn't going to pretend everything was fine, or that the hurt would disappear overnight. But I was ready to take the first step towards something new. A new chapter. I stood up from the bench, the park now quiet and peaceful, the moonlight casting a soft glow over the path ahead. I walked slowly, feeling lighter than I had in hours. It wasn't the end of the story, not by a long shot, but it was the beginning of something different, something better. Maybe, just maybe, this was the turning point I needed, and I wasn't going to waste it.